Hi there, welcome to Wyckoff Technical Analysis session for SCRT. So SCRT has gone through a pretty amazing bounce, however it got rejected very heavily from the yellow key level of 33 cents. So if you're new to my sessions, these three key takeaways are what you can expect. So we'll start with the weekly chart, and we already see a couple of things right here. So the lines, the breakout timing, they all happened. So it's time to take them away just to keep the line at the bottom, because when we get to the daily chart, we'll adjust this and see what's going on. Here, this may just be another sign of strength that showed up this week. Not saying it's completely over, because it can still continue to come back to the orange key level of 24 cents and exhibit horizontal trading. That's where the backup and last point of support would be. And however, the downside risk still remains that it can still come down for a test near the red key level of 16 cents. So these two chances remain same. While the message seems to be quite clear that SCRT seems not ready for another pump yet, but we never know, because this may be the shakeout that the whales or the composite man want to see before they actually trigger the real leg towards the distribution cycle, meaning the PSY and subsequently the buying climax. I already mentioned in the past that in order for a long-term speculative value or investment value to persist and give confidence to the people that are trading, at least the buying climax has to challenge the purple key level of 77 cents. That's where the peak back in March 2024 and November 24 was. Okay, these two. If the buying climax ends up somewhere lower, that's a worrying sign that the capital might have gone to somewhere else instead of going to SCRT as in 2024. Okay, that's the big picture and some of the things that we have to take into consideration. Going to the daily, that's why we have to keep the yellow dashed line. Look at the dip over here back on October 30th and 31st. Previously, we talked about an ascending trend like higher lows, but those 2 days completely smashed that thinking. So it actually came back down to make it like a flat bottom. Alright, so that changed the perspective of things from an uptrend, a positive sentiment, to something not that much. While it looks like it's not as positive, when we look at where the candlestick closed, that you can consider a spring happened. Okay, so that's why maybe people took the chance thinking it's probably time to get into SCRT. Alright, so this may be just a higher sign of strength, and we're still waiting for this to happen, much like in the weekly case, while there's still a chance for the price to come back to test this. Because if we draw an upward trend box over here, what happened yesterday has clearly fallen outside of the trend. Okay, look at where we are today. Yesterday was marginally outside of the zone, but today is definitely outside of it. Alright, otherwise it should open somewhere around 22 cents and then shoot back up. But currently the bulls and the bears are still fighting at around this equilibrium price point of around like somewhere at 22 cents. That's not something like what we can see from a sustained uptrend. So this trend may have been over. Not saying it can't start a new uptrend. It can trade like this and then start a new uptrend. Just that it's not the same path anymore. So let me see whether I have missed anything. Okay, so one more point here. If we look at the volume bar, this long wick over here, even though it was a day that the price was up and the body of the candlestick is longer than the previous 8 days, but this volume, when it looks much higher than the rest, it actually has half of it selling from the top. So don't mistake this as a very positive sign, because subsequently, well, yesterday was actually a little bit more positive, even though the price came down, because the selling volume wasn't that high. It was just average compared to, the past 7 days. Okay, that was about 3 million. Previously, it was almost 10 million on Friday. Okay, that's a relieving sign that the price may find support at this level. And if we look across, it's understandable why it's pausing over here, because that's where the top of the previous sign of weakness, sign of strength was. Likewise, over here, there were 2 tips at this point. So if I draw a line from these tips, it's ending somewhere the bulls and the bears are fighting today, like I said just now. Okay, you see the top here, you see where the candlestick right now is. Alright, likewise here. So I think looking at this, I'm just thinking whether to adjust this. This looks to me, this is more like a 45, 55 instead of, at least for the daily chart. Okay, the weekly, I would still keep it like this for the time being, because this can still go back up eventually. When it comes to test the reds, I'm seeing, for the weekly, if it really comes down to test the red, it doesn't seem like the case. So yeah, I'm trying to make some adjustments, because this should align the weekly. And when I look at the chart, I've got different feelings. When we look at the weekly, it looks to me it's trying to stay at where it is now and to challenge or show us this. That's why I'm putting it as at a higher chance. But when I look at the daily, it has fallen outside of an uptrend by finding support here. So okay, I'm keeping this for now, unless this is developing into a downtrend, meaning if in the next few days, if in the next few days I'm seeing something that comes along this box, or next time when we come back, we see the daily trading has gone to this side instead, it's the time to adjust these percentages. As of now, I'm still giving this a benefit of doubt that it will trade sideways and then eventually go there. That's the one of the options that it can happen. The other is this downtrend. Okay, yeah, sometimes it really is a big judgment to see, which side has higher chance. Thanks for joining me for the secret